Okay. Hi everyone, welcome to my stream once again. Thank you very much for making it to the last stream. I really enjoyed having to talk with you guys and Sarah. It was a really fun experience for me. And today I have someone that I keep saying that I have ripped him off, but the truth is I owe a lot of the things I know to him. Like I owe a lot of the things I know to Mograph Mentor and School of Motion because their free courses helped me grow as a motion designer. Not free courses, but like free content. And today we're going to be talking about how to learn motion design again, but then in this world where there's a lot of content. And today I have with me the legendary, the genius. I'm thinking of really fun names to call you. But I have the legendary Mike Jones. Yeah. How are you doing, Mike?
Yeah,
How are you doing
I'm
today?
doing so well. That's the most generous introduction I've ever been given. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Nice. It's really nice to have you. And it's really nice to be talking to you. Like I've always had like weird fantasies about talking to you and how it would be like. And it's really cool to actually be seeing
Yeah,
you. And
moment. Yeah.
most of the time it's just me seeing you like sitting down on one desk, a brown wooden desk, and there's an iMac, and then you have like the Wacom and you're working. That's how I remember you. I remember you as that guy that's always behind the iMac and the Wacom, and because that's what I remember you as. It
I was
feels
his Wacom tablet. Yeah, I do like my Wacom tablet a lot.
I wish I had the wow just for that's the only thing I can say. Okay, so sorry guys
Oh,
for
it's
the
okay.
short intermission. I think we should be back on. I'm so sorry
Yep, I
for
got you louder. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah. Sorry, yeah, you got a little cut off on what you were saying previously.
sorry, I was talking about the fact that Wacom is like the Apple of graphics tablet. They
Mm,
don't necessarily come up with new
mm,
features. Everyone does the same features. But then they're like the Apple of it, so they get to make the most like price it the
yeah,
highest and still get people buy it. While other
very
people
expensive.
like I got a tab and it was like
Yeah,
10 times cheaper than a Wacom, and it has all the features of like the most expensive Wacom. And
yeah. No, they're just
but
like the original. They're just an older company, and I have no doubt a lot of these newer, cheaper tablets are probably pretty amazing too. Now that a lot of the technology's been solved, but definitely still love my Wacom. I bought it used because they are pricey.
yeah,
But I was
I
I was
want to
living in
get one.
Sarasota, Florida, and there's a big art college there, so that's like a good market to buy a used Wacom because like half the people have one.
Yep. I actually want to get one, and it's just for the fact that it is Wacom, not because of I need it, just because of I want to have a Wacom and I want to be part of the Wacom community. It's like, boom,
There's
I'm one
no
of those people who have a
community.
Wacom.
There's no
I mean,
clubs or meetings.
it feels so cool when someone has a Wacom.
Just
I want to feel cool too. Okay, so
come do it, man. Yeah.
let's continue with the conversation. How are you doing today? Like, let's start with that. How are you doing today? How's your day going?
Oh, it's going well. I'm just here in my spare bedroom in my house, just recording content for a mentorship that we have coming up in the summer on some really fun 2D After Effects animation work. But other than that, can't complain. Keeping busy. The weather's getting a little bit warmer here in Virginia, which is nice. I've
Nice.
got two healthy kids and a healthy wife, and so super grateful, that we've been healthy and safe through, the last year, basically, I guess, with COVID. And yeah, man, just keeping busy. But happy to be talking to you, and interested in learning more about your story as well.
I like, thank you very much for saying that. I'm really glad that you're doing fine and everything is going well. Today we had like a really chill weather here. Like it's been chill all morning and really cloudy. And I was trying to shoot a video. At first this morning I was thinking, how would I shoot this video? The weather sucks. The light and I don't have a light, so I'm using natural light. And the weather
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
sun is like, well, when I finally decide that I want to shoot a video, that's when the sun decides that it's not going to come out today. But
It looks
glory
good,
to
man. I
God,
don't know. It looks good. Yeah,
everything
yeah.
came out well today. I'm glad that it came out well and I was able to shoot the video that I wanted to shoot. So let's just get into the questions. I wanted to like
Hmm.
as much as you said that everyone, like, as you've done a lot of podcasts and everyone knows your story, I really want to like get into your story because I don't know you for myself. I know you as the guy that I see behind the Wacom and an iMac teaching motion
Mhm.
design in After Effects, mostly After Effects and less of Cinema 4D. So like,
Mhm.
how did you become a motion designer and how long have you been a motion designer? What was it like?
Yep. So yeah, I really started in, using After Effects for the first time in 2009
Wow.
when I was, so the whole backstory is I had a brother-in-law who went to art school and studied character animation and went on to work in feature films, and that really opened my eyes to like, wow, people go to art school and then do digital media, jobs like animation and design. So it kind of opened up a whole, opened my eyes up to that possibility. And I would spend time with them, and he would like open Maya and open Photoshop and Premiere Pro and After Effects. And of course, he's using the Adobe tools and he's using Maya and he's doing all this fun, cool stuff. And so from that point on, I was like, okay, I'm going to save up and get a computer and start, borrowing some Adobe software while I learn, how to do some of this. And then um, so, like a lot of people, then I just went down the rabbit hole of like, all right, well, let me Google and see what I can learn online. And then you see, Andrew Kramer and Nick Campbell and, lynda.com and digitaltutors.com, other platforms where the price was really low and you could get a lot of training, and just ripping off anything and everything of just like, oh, that looks cool, and making this and making that, and just making garbage with the software for like, like a year straight, obsessively, like an addict, of just like every single night, just burning the computer every night overnight of like, oh, now I'm going to do this. And, looking back, you're like, this all looks so terrible. This is just like a
Yeah.
crazy person just rendering anything and everything to no purpose or meaning or aesthetic or like, finer discipline or purpose. So right, so that was like getting into it first. It was just like a technology and playing around with it and like, oh, this is so cool. And then, after a year or so, you're like, wow, bad at making anything though. So then you start to research, well, how do you really learn art and design fully? Um, and that's when I started using online education, paying for online education, of basically taking online art and design classes and online drawing classes from cheaper platforms like Digital Tutors and Lynda, where you could get this kind of information
Yep.
cheaply. And then doing Animation Mentor, which was this like boot camp style live mentorship where once a week you're in this live session with someone who works at this amazing TV
Does it
studio
still
or movie
exist?
studio. It still exists. Yeah, it still exists and thriving as far as I know, and really helping people get into the feature film industry as character animators. And so I went through like the first four classes of that kind of character animation, and through that experience where I learned a lot about animation, I realized I still loved image making and design and illustration too. And so motion design appealed to me. So then I started to get a little bit more serious about, like reading design for motion and reading other books and just taking more seriously trying to like understand how to make good work. And so, after I guess about 2 years of just tinkering, I was like, all right, I want to apply for jobs and try to get some kind of low paying position in a studio. So then I could really learn a lot. And so, I did actually first an unpaid internship at a large church, actually, in Florida, that had an internal creative media team in Cooper City, Florida. And they're making all these videos that they're using within the multimedia presentation at these services around like 10 campuses around the city, like this kind of thing. Um, and I apprenticed under their motion designer, a guy named Phil Lashley, who is just a super great guy and just really allowed me to kind of sit over his shoulder and see his approach. And he had gone to the Art Institute in Miami, I believe. And so he had a really artistic approach to his work. It wasn't just like render everything. It was like very deliberate. And he was a designer, and he was really strong with type, and he was really strong with form and shape. And so he had a huge impact on me of just like just the way that you would approach it, and like why these cool, these tools are cool is you can really, make stuff that looks good and look deliberate. And then I was looking at other studios and agencies of like, all right, I really, I loved 3D and I loved design. So I did love the verge of like 3D advertising kind of thing.
Yep.
So I applied for a job at an agency in Portland, Oregon. And I went and worked at this agency and did some like 3D Adidas kind of fun stuff. And then also some video stuff. And then I basically got recruited out of that agency into a studio in town in Portland called Cardboard Castle that was doing like some really cool Nike 3D shoe stuff and Coors Light, 3D bottles,
Yeah.
And all this kind of fun stuff. And my experience at Cardboard Castle, then working there for like a year around really high-end, brilliant artists. Then a year later, I was like, wow, like now my whole approach has changed entirely. And like, I really see, what it looks like to make good work, and to really, there's meaning and there's concept, but the images are beautiful. And there's really the presence of design principles, but also great filmmaking and photography and all these disciplines that have to converge to really make good work, and also what it looks like as a business. So, I worked at Cardboard Castle for a year. I was meeting so many of the creative directors and producers at Nike and Adidas and other places that I was like, actually, I'm going to go freelance. And these people all have my email. So then I just worked from home and just went project to project, because the studio life was
Stressful.
just an absolute grind. Like, it was good money. They'll pay you by the hour, but like, on the last 2 weeks of a job, you're there for like 80 hours a week for 2 straight weeks. And you're like, I think this is going to kill me. I literally can't do this.
Yeah.
So that was like, I'm just going to freelance. You make less, then you end up, you turn out making way more money freelancing, and also actually being more stressed out. And then you're like, oh shoot, actually there was a lot of hours, but at least I didn't have to.
When you're like in an agency, you're like, you don't do much. All you do is work. But when you're like,
you're just an employee.
But when you're a freelancer, you're finding the clients, you're managing your accounts, you're managing the project, you're managing conversation, managing relationships.
Yep. All the headaches, all the stress.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a fine balance, but I was young at that point. I was youngish, and me and my wife was like, we wanted to travel, and it was like, yeah, I'll just get a laptop and we'll drive around the country and just like, work for clients.
How did it go?
So
the traveling around the world.
So, I mean, it was great. We're about to do it again. Actually, we just bought a new little camper that we're going to drive around. But now we have 2 kids and the dog, so it's definitely going to add some complexity to the experience, but also be a lot of fun. But right, I wanted the freedom that freelance could give. And then too, I fancied myself more of like, well, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't need to work 80 hours a week for this studio, when like I'll just manage the projects directly, with these companies.
Mm-hmm.
And I really did love it, actually. For like the first 3 or 4 years of that, I was like, wow, this is great. Make $100,000 a year and just work your own hours, manage your own projects, and get to travel and be wherever you want. And it's a good life.
It's a stressful life. It seems easy, but
I'd say it gets harder over time. Like, it wears you down over time, where you're like, oh boy. Yeah. Now it's like, right. It just feels like it's not super sustainable. So, right. So that's why I've always wanted to be engaged in other projects too, like MoGraph Mentor, like Create Academy, which was my attempt to open a physical training center location in Florida from like 2017 to almost early 2019.
Yep.
Because, right, like freelancing is cool, but you want to be around people and you want to be part of something more dynamic than always just sitting at your computer, alone managing projects and this kind of thing. But now we're in COVID, so all that stuff's on hold. But, it's exciting to think about a post-COVID world and what it looks like in terms of coming back out of our houses and this kind of thing.
So how is the life like? How is like the motion design life for you now? Like right now? I know you've told me how your story went and how you started from borrowing. He said borrowing. I wasn't sure if you meant borrowing or pirating Photoshop and After Effects. I don't know. Do they borrow Photoshop and After Effects back in the day? Most of us just pirate it and just get a free version, and that's the end.
Oh, borrowed, you say? Oh, yeah, yeah, borrowed. No, I mean, I pay for all my software, but right. When I was first starting out, I admit maybe I did borrow the software
Yeah, I
when
like how you
you.
say borrow. Sorry.
I think I paid them back. I think I paid them back. I buy Adobe stock too, so I've just chalked that up to you know a gratis tip. But no, I mean, I'm grateful, man. Like this is the greatest. This is the greatest job in the world, and to ever be recognized for like your
Hmm.
creativity is an amazing privilege that we get to experience in this line of work. And like work is work, right? So people, we can complain and be like, oh, it's definitely a grind, and that's all true. But then at the same time, I mean, everybody's got to work, and there are many other jobs where you get no recognition. The financial rewards are often far less, and those people work exceptionally hard too. So certainly try not to lose sight of just the incredible privilege of getting to do this kind of work for a living. That
Yep.
companies will email me, hey, you're so great, you're so brilliant. Hey, can you come and make this for us? And it's like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
you
I
know,
think.
my background too, all the jobs I ever had was like, like washing dishes and being a busboy and being a bartender and serving at restaurants and doing work that like no one pats you on the back and like, hey, great job at doing your job.
Yeah,
Like that's just not even part of the equation. You just work and get a little bit of money. So we have just incredible jobs.
that's true. I really like how
Oh,
like the work system is in the world today, in the sense that like you can literally be from in your own house and start your own company. And though it's stressful, it's not easy. I feel like online people make it look like starting a business is easy and you should just quit your job, but it's not. It takes work. It takes understanding how businesses work, understanding how to have conversations and how to have relationships. But I love the fact that anyone can just drop out and do it right now if they have the stomach for it, obviously. But I love the fact that
yeah.
every single person can do it, which is really amazing. And I love the fact that you went from doing weird jobs where you're not really appreciated to just being doing something that you actually love and something that very few people can do. Actually, I don't think I can say very few people can do it. I mean, in my country, very few people can do it. But in America, a lot of people can do motion design. A lot of people can do motion design. But compare motion design to like
Why do you say not a lot of people can do it in your country?
there aren't really a lot of motion designers here. Like before now, motion design is just a service like graphic designers or video editors add. So like there's no dedicated motion designer. So what those guys do is just buy templates, change the text, and that's it. Before we started talking, I was telling you about how there's a lot of mediocrity in our industry. Yeah, it's like really terrible work, really terrible advertising will just pass off. Really terrible, not because they don't work, just because that they don't just feel good. They don't feel right. Like this doesn't just feel
Mm.
like this design doesn't look okay. This isn't following the principles of design. It just doesn't work. And those kind of things just get passed up and as good, and that's just the standard. And it's really difficult for you to get well-paying projects here, I guess. So there's a lot of mediocrity
Yeah.
in there. There's a lot of people that would just do it for a quick dollar, or sorry, naira. I've lost my train of thoughts.
Yeah.
I was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, are there what are the institutions like? There's got to be good art schools that anchor, then kind of like a studio advertising sector, so you can get, fresh generations of artists who are really deeply, read in on great art. 4 years at art school is a long time. A lot of those kids come out of
I don't
there
think there's any good
really,
art
really
school here.
developed.
Like I've searched around. I don't think there's like a proper art school. Yeah, I think.
You said there's not a proper art
Yeah, I
school?
don't think there is. Like there are art programs in university, and some of them are good, but majority isn't really that great. And so like
Yeah,
there's no design, there's no dedicated design school. There are great architectural schools here,
yeah,
to be honest, but design, like graphic design and art and media, like that, you wouldn't really find. Even computer science is really pretty shitty here, to be honest. Which is like an
Yeah.
essential course for any school. So like I know you gave us a breakdown of how you started emotional design and how you like borrowed Photoshop and how your brother-in-law inspired you and all. So how would you like if you had the opportunity to learn motion design today, how would you approach it right now? Like let's imagine that you're starting over, you're like, I don't know how old you were back then, where you're like young Michael Jones. Do you let's
Yeah.
assume that you know like you're in the world, the present world today, how would you approach learning motion design?
Yeah, I guess my strategy would be the same as it was originally, like most people do, which is like squeeze as much information as you possibly can to develop. And then if you do need to pay for some classes or mentorship, that then put you in a position to go, to build a couple of portfolio pieces that can get you jobs at studios or to freelance for those studios. Because the way that you're really probably going to achieve your self-actualization, your full potential as a multimedia artist is to
Yeah,
work with other great artists. Hello.
that makes sense. So like you wouldn't really change anything, which is fine. But I think
I mean, I would definitely like the hard thing about learning online and then just freelancing in isolation. That is a hard way to really, really, it's kind of an iron sharpens iron situation. The studios are almost competitive internally about the kind of art that everyone's producing, and the information sharing and the knowledge sharing, and then the being forced to do crazy creative problem solving to build solutions, especially like in any 3D complexity or this kind of thing. Like, um, so yeah, I mean that to me I think is the best path. I mean like Ringling College of Art and Design, every 4 years there's another round of motion design kids who graduate and they compete for the slots at big studios in New York City and Los Angeles and San Francisco and Chicago. And, um, they often have really developed skill sets, right? They've studied design and they've studied illustration and they've studied 3D and they've studied 2D and they've had many, many years to put it together and they understand how the studios work, hopefully. Um,
hopefully.
Hopefully, like you're right to an extent. Now, like spending time with people who teach there, they would tell you like a lot of that sounds good. It's not 100% always how it plays out. And of course, right, that's like a simplification. But just like then those people, if they can get into those positions at studios and work in big creative teams filled with brilliant people, well, then it's like rocket fuel for your career as a motion designer, as a visual artist. Either that or you've got to have just an uncanny personal drive to make your work better and to push your work to the highest possible standards, even without being in the room with 10 other brilliant artists, where you feel the pressure of like, holy shit, I can't show these frames, this looks like garbage. Like
Yeah.
that kind of pressure where you want to do, you want to make stuff that looks good. So the danger of freelance, or just totally, the reason I emphasize saying like, oh, I would try to learn online, build a portfolio, and get a job at a studio. Um, I think it's easy just to move slower or get stagnant in isolation. So I think right, that would be my strategy today, given
That,
what I know.
that makes sense. Sorry, I want to quickly change my internet. Like I want to do an internet change. So
Sure.
like if you guys hear like there might be like a pause for like a second or two. This is the slowest stream so far. So like let me quickly change my internet so we can get a better connection and just give me
Sure,
a
sure.
minute to do that. I wish there was a
Hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. I mean on YouTube, there's no data on YouTube. Okay. I think we should be back now. I'm so sorry. This is officially my slowest stream. I don't really have much people on the stream coming, and that's because I didn't really promote it as well as I should, or we didn't promote it well enough. But I'm really grateful for you guys who are here, and let's just have fun talking about the most important things, which is learning sorry, learning in this century, learning in this time that we are in, because motion design is so weird, and the barrier to entry is one of the highest. Like, apart from medicine, of course, the barrier to entry
Mm.
is difficult for motion. You can't just wake up and say, boom, I want to be a motion designer. Because, like, there's so many things you have to put into consideration. There's a good chance that you're not going to get any work. There's a very, very amazing chance that you're not going to get any work. And there's a good chance that you cannot, like, you wouldn't be able to learn what you need to know in a short time. Why do you think the barrier to entry is so high? And what would you like? How would you approach it from that point of view? How would you approach learning it and coming into industry from that point of view?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard because it's hard to be a professional production artist. It's highly competitive.
Hmm.
There are, it's such a niche industry within advertising, marketing, entertainment, communications. Um, and it's like it's art too. So it's like there's no room for mediocrity. So it's like, at least in some contexts, right? It kind of depends on certainly what you want to do. I think people can be made to learn to like make simple explainer videos in a short period of time, and a lot of people certainly do that.
Yep.
But to be like a fully developed production artist, making work in 3D and 2D and understanding, you know, how to make things look amazing, that is a that's it's not a huge bubble. So it's like you've got to get in there somehow, um, or you've got to hope you're in a place where that merges and
Yeah.
the barrier to entry is high to right. The barrier to entry is high to work as a production artist because the people spending the money and writing the checks are so right heavily concentrated in certain areas, and there is fierce competition for their money. So just being kind of a freelancer with okay work, it's like it's tough.
Yeah.
And then at the low end, it's like, well, people can learn to make explainer videos, but now there's software that'll make you an explainer video that's like 50% as good, but for $99 or something, this kind of thing which will certainly be there, right? So there's like a huge inequality. There's all that work at the bottom end of just like, oh, people just want a video for YouTube or a Facebook ad or whatever. Millions and millions of small actors, small businesses, which is good that they should be able to buy creative services to try to build their businesses. And then you've got the very high end of people who make ads and who make film titles and who do the things. Before our call, I was reading the stats on advertising spending within Africa and the complexities of doing advertising in Africa. Um, and it's remarkable. It's already right. There's billions of dollars going into television advertising across 54 African nations and across thousands of languages. So I'm reading these articles for geared towards like an agency London or UK audience, and they're saying everybody knows the complexity of trying to market within African markets across languages, across cultural norms, across all these different scenarios. There's like a real opportunity for expertise on the ground for people to build agencies from within Africa. Because it's funny that in English, a UK audience is reading that as they find it so difficult, and but the opportunity's there. But like actors within the United States and Europe are moving to try to grab a growing slice of digital advertising spend and TV advertising spend on the continent of Africa, which is growing faster than almost any other place in the world.
Yep.
So as those actors try to go in, right, it's competitive, right? So even if a company does really well within Nigeria, well, maybe their agency of records just gonna be in London or in New York, and that I think is a lot of how it works until there can be big advertising clusters within African cities, where then those companies say, oh, we got the creative talent right here. But I mean, it's an exciting prospect, and then you've got this ability. people in your position who have the skill set and who could build a studio, you've got a comparative cost advantage that's very powerful, to compete against studios and agencies in the United States and in Western Europe.
Yeah,
And, you'd be crazy not to use that, right? To like, if you can create a remote agency, then work for startups out of Silicon Valley, and, you've got this price comparison difference, you can have a whole team of brilliant people for what it costs for one American. It's like that I think will be an increasing opportunity for artists, for production artists, for studios and agencies in Africa.
yeah, because of like the cost is totally different than in all the studios. Sorry, than in America. Like you guys have a lot to pay for. You have a lot of mouths to feed. But here there isn't really, because it's growing. The cost to operate isn't as crazy as operating in America. But
How easy is
then
it to start a business in your country? Like, how hard would it be for you to have you done? That'd be an interesting, discussion. How hard would it be for you to start a studio tomorrow? And like, how
uh,
much, how expensive is that? If an investor came to you and was like, I want you to start a content agency, a motion studio, there in Nigeria, then it's like, okay, I need X amount of money and X amount of months. What would that
I
look?
think it depends. One, how many clients? If it's a studio and we're making content, it depends like what our business model is and what is the plan for that business. Basically, if it's like how I started, which is just a business, we going out to earn for client, we're starting from scratch from 0 naira. There's no money in the bank. The business model is different. The business model is just go and find clients, give everyone a good experience, and they bring in more clients. That's the business model. It's slow, but it works on the long run. If someone is coming in with money, that person should have a good amount of contacts already. In the sense that the person should have the clients already. So all I'm doing is building a team to create. All I'm doing is finding the best of the best people in Lagos to work on the videos and the projects for them. So I think to start, I need enough money to be able to pay those person consistently for a year. So that is like our runway for that whole year. I need the runway. I don't really care about working, like having a physical office. So like that could just be taken away completely because we really need it. But I need devices, I need computers that could render really fast. So like
Yeah, yeah,
computers for
sure.
not for everyone, but like a computer that everyone could render out of because I expect everyone to already have a system they can work with. So doing all the calculation roughly in my head to pay everyone consistently, let's say I'm paying everyone like an average of $1,500 each monthly for just for a start, and I need about how many people do I really need to work on a motion project? Let's do the math together.
Well, right, but right as you say, it depends on the business
Depends on the
model. I
business
guess
model.
what do you want to sell? What do you want to sell to people, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, if you want to be a motion design agency and sell, right, videos at $60,000 pop to the large companies there in the largest city, right? Then building a model around that. Typically, what happens is individual successful production artists can then, right, as you say, have the network, have the contacts, do have some happy customers and clients that kind of superstar,
Yeah.
production artists who then it's like who can start a company, because they can bring other people in, and have the business savvy to grow with their clients. And a lot of studios only have a couple clients, but it's the clients that keep the lights on, right? Companies that
I
are spending
mean,
millions of dollars on advertising, whether it's television or digital,
I don't think it's unnecessarily
and they're
about
happy to
how many
pay
clients
in
you have. I think it's about like the experience those individual clients have with you. If you give me the most amazing experience in the world, like you're the best at the service, like I feel happy when I work with you, I will definitely keep coming back, and I would find excuses to come back. I could just wake up one morning and come up with like a motion idea and oh, these guys would do it, and I would keep coming back. Give your client a good experience, and they would come back. Do you get?
Sure. For small companies, sure. And certainly it's a good principle, right? Like what matters is just happy customers, 100%, because then that spreads,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So like let's get back our train of thoughts because we started from talking about why the barrier to entry is motion is high. I think depending on where you are, that question is different. The answer is different rather. for me, the barrier to entry is high because learning it isn't cheap. No matter the courses you consider really, really cheap, the course that you consider cheap or affordable there is like, oh my god, I have to save a lot for it, yeah. And hardwares are not cheap. It cost me a lot to get my laptop, and it's not even strong enough. And I'm still thinking, okay, next year I need to maybe find someone to, or maybe build the parts myself, and maybe build a computer, a proper computer that could handle all these heavy softwares. I need a computer that can handle simulation. Simulation is just terrible. That's why
Yeah.
I was tweeting that I need this next computer I get has to have 128 gigs of RAM because I need to do better simulation work, basically. And those are the two main factors: the cost to learn and the cost to work. And then there's like the cost to live. So there's internet, there's electricity. Those are the two main things. Nigeria's electricity is just not good. The infrastructure is not there. The electricity, we only get electricity like maybe once or twice a week. For me, that is for my, depending on where you stay in Nigeria, for me, where I stay, I only get electricity like twice a week. And that's it. I don't run on the power grid, I run on generator. We run on fossil fuel. Almost everyone, we don't depend on the power grid to give us our electricity, basically. And you have to consider that. So, like, the barrier to entry is different depending on who you ask. For you, it might not, the scenario is different, totally different for you. I think in America, I think what would make it difficult is probably the lack of information, and not necessarily the fact that you cannot afford all this technology and all this infrastructure, and you cannot pay for the courses. And also, like you said, the major players are putting the money in different things. Do you get? So, like, I think that could be the reason why the barrier to entry for motion is high, and I feel like that's a problem we need to solve as a community, like as a motion community in the world generally. We need to figure out how to reduce the barrier to entry for a lot of people. And I also think that even if we have the barrier to entry low, there would be a lot of mediocrity in the air. Because a lot of random people would just come up and be like, I'm a motion designer, and we check their artwork and it's like, this isn't
Well,
really.
certainly some would argue that's already the case. Yeah.
Yeah, it's already. I think it's the case. Yeah, because anyone can just buy, not necessarily a course. Like, you can have.
I mean, I think the generation before me thinks my generation has unleashed the wave of mediocrity, and it's here. We're experiencing it now.
I don't think your generation unleashed the wave of mediocrity. I think my generation of motion designers.
Online, I'm like, right, everyone's doing it.
I mean, like, everyone is doing crypto art
now.
now.
Until our grandmothers are rendering stuff in After Effects.
Like,
just full mainstream adoption.
I mean, I remember when, like a few years ago, where people started using GPU rendering, then all of a sudden, every single person is doing daily renders. Every single person is rendering astronauts and putting it online, and just like mediocrity in the air. Right now, it's crypto art. Everyone is doing crypto art, and there's a lot of just shit
sure,
in that market.
Sure.
So, like, I feel like as like the lower the barrier to entry, the more widespread it is and the more the mediocrity. But we need to find solutions to reduce that mediocrity. Because, like, you just go online and you wake up and you're like, oh God, why did I go online? This is just pure trash. I shouldn't be seeing this on my timeline. And it's the case a lot, right? Especially right now, especially in 2021. The barrier to entry is low in your side of the world, and there's a lot of mediocrity there. I feel like we're lucky in the sense that there's a lot of mediocrity here, but there isn't a lot of people here. The barrier to entry is still high. And if we can figure out a way to reduce the barrier to entry in a way that shows people what is actually the right way to do things, and show people that, okay, this is not necessarily gatekeeping these people, but showing them that, okay, this is motion design, this is the principles of motion. Motion has an history. Motion did not just come from people doing After Effects or people using Octane or people using Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine is so going to reduce the barrier to entry.
Yeah.
I say that.
I mean, there was a generation of people who it was just people that went to art schools and art institutes that learned it, really. I think that previous right before there was, you could learn everything online. It was a huge commitment to be an artist, to take that on. But right, the world has changed. Here we are. Now anybody can learn it. I see James is here watching. He says bad art will always exist. That's
That's
true,
true.
100%. And right, a lot of it's just attention seeking and just wants to be part of it, and part of it's fun and part of it's cool.
I think it's probably an
Yeah,
human
it's not
thing.
for me to tell anyone they can't make and post art. That's certainly true. But I mean, you say mediocrity in Nigeria, it's like, right. And then you said, well, maybe there's not the art institutions there. There's not really the schools that produce a bunch of, excellent, really, really hyper serious,
Yep.
focused multimedia artists. But it's like I had the dream of wanting to do more physical training centers. It's like me as an American, if I had money and came to Nigeria and tried to start a kind of alternative art school, it sounds like I would just get crushed under the weight of poor internet and poor
It
infrastructure.
might sound like that, but
And
surprisingly, it might not be like that. There are companies. I think the best model for seeing this, for like as an example, is the UI UX industry in Nigeria. UIX
hmm,
is one of the widespread design, like one of the widespread
there's
sectors
like
of design.
successful boot camp
Yeah, like it's
companies. Yeah.
like a lot of amazing UI UX designers come from this part of the world,
Oh,
come from
interesting.
Africa,
Because
and
that's how easy it was. Just set up some hyper focused boot camps and train people up and bring the capital to have computers, and it
yeah,
sounds like
and the
for
barrier to
internet.
entry for UI UX isn't really as crazy as motion design. If you have a Chromebook or any random laptop, you can do just Figma.com and you're into UI UX.
Right. Not processor intensive, right? That's kind of like lighter work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I know.
there's a lot of mediocrity in that industry, fine, but that is like a good model for like handling mediocrity and there being a lot of good people shining. I don't know if that makes sense because it's like one of the biggest, like 2 years ago most companies in Nigeria don't even understand what a UI, or 3 years ago most companies in Nigeria don't understand what a UI UX designer is. Now everyone is looking for a UI UX designer because a couple of people were able to create a community around it. They were able to create a system. They were able to find a way to teach a lot of people UI UX really really fast and show all these big tech companies in Nigeria what is the value of having a UI UX designer, what's the value of having a user experience designer, and how can this help your app? And they're able to create case studies and do that. And it's one of the
Yeah.
biggest design industries in Nigeria. Like I keep saying this thing, anybody, if you're a designer, there are two places you branch out to, or three places you branch out to. Either brand design, UI UX, or motion design. UI UX is like the top in Nigeria. There's just so many. There's an oversaturation of UI UX designers in Nigeria.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, it's
But it kind of grows on itself too, as like a little cluster of, once people are into it, then they want to go off and build companies and work for clients, and
yeah,
that's an important part of it too. I mean, that's a reality. I was just in Richmond, Virginia, filming with a motion designer and studio owner named Amanda Russell, and there's like a 4 block radius in downtown Richmond where there was like 5 or 6 different animation studios, and just part of our discussion was how symbiotic it all really was in reality, even though they were kind of competing. Like the large companies there want to do a request for a proposal to like at least 4 companies. So if there was only one motion design firm in town, then like Capital One, who has their headquarters in Richmond, may not even look within their own city to do a request for proposal and like try to get 4 bids. They'll just think, well, we need maybe like a broker or something, and we'll have to just go to New York to
yep,
find agencies and things. So the question I think too is like, in the largest African cities, can you just build a cluster, right, where there are several students? That's going to take leadership and money and all that kind of thing. And maybe it is that education has to precede it. So it's like someone just needs to start those boot camp equivalents of the UI UX thing and just have enough money to just put machines in place. But it's like with our jobs, it takes time too. You really do need to study art. People go to art school for 4 years, and it's like you don't want to just work with people for 6 weeks and have them spit out like how much do they really know? Not that much.
yeah.
Like how useful are they as a production artist to really solve the problems of big companies and build multi-million dollar studios and agencies? Are they really prepared for that? That is an elusive question. And like, so it's tough, right? Starting an art school is tough. That's a hard business. That's a lot of times it has to be expensive because it's a hard business,
Yeah.
because how many people want to pursue that career. I think maybe it's getting easier because subsequent generations are more into art, more into aesthetics, more into design, more into film and photography, and
I think
the iPhone is just a gateway drug towards everyone becoming an artist. But it's interesting you say the educational side of it preceded that industry popping up there. So it's like, yeah, that's a big part of it.
I think the next coming generation is going to be more artistic and less technical, because like most of the technical side of things can easily be replaced by a robot or can easily be automated. The only side that
Some kind of
cannot be
automation, yeah,
the only side that cannot be
templated
automated.
creativity. People will just play with templates. Yeah, I mean, we already see that to a degree. It's kind of a slippery slope, where
Yep.
even a lot of 3D art is just akin to a graphic designer taking stock images and composing like a nice poster. There's still an art to that. There's still design and composition and photography and film and those things that really elevate it.
I think in the next few years, the roles that would remain in like most industries are leadership roles or are directors roles, because like most of all the things that we can do, or most of the things that a junior designer or a junior motion designer can do, can easily be replaced by an AI or a robot.
I don't think we're that close. I
don't think we're
agree that
close. But I think only people who are creative, like only people who are directors and are really creative and can come up with good ideas, would be able to survive
I don't
without
know,
work.
man. I think there's still a lot of work even after the idea. I still think a human being is a wildly useful
I think
tool as a motion designer. There's certainly scripts and stuff, and like motion designers can be empowered. And I might buy an argument that says
this is an interesting argument.
studios might be able to trim like 10% of their staff based on automation right now. I would be skeptical that you could just have a studio with a creative director and not large teams of people executing out the various details.
I'm not saying like just a creative director. I'm not saying that you don't need a lot of people. I'm just saying that there are some roles that would lose their value because of automation. Like, have you seen?
Right, like rotoscoping as an example. Yeah, maybe rotoscoping 15 years ago was like you had to spend a lot of money.
I think that's a really
effects.
good example. And have you seen this Adobe presentation, Adobe Sensei? I don't know if it's out now. Like where they have like this AI and they just did a sketch and the AI came up with.
That's why I think at the margins you're right. There's going to be things that get sped up and automated, and instead of 4 rotoscope artists, you need like 1 rotoscope lead kind of situation.
And I feel like that change is going to happen in the creative industry. So like I feel like people should learn to use their minds more.
Yeah.
Focus on
certainly.
Being creative and creating amazing things and creating amazing work that they really need you, and like focus on that and focus less on the technical side of things, because anyone can do the technical side of things. Not just anyone.
Technical knowledge builds up too. There's a lot of people who blow you away with a pretty deep technical knowledge of these, of these tools. So it's definitely a balance. It's definitely like, and it's time, and it's just time, and it's repetition, and it's muscle memory, and it's like doing lots and lots and lots of work over the years.
Yep, like you got it. So what do you think about free online content? Like, we had this discussion roughly.
Doesn't love free online content.
I personally learned from like my motion, like how I learn motion is, I think I've said it before in the stream, I'm not sure. So I got, sorry, I have to cough. 80% of the things I know is not 80. Virtually all of the things I know is from watching videos on YouTube. And I just take online courses and I'm like, well, I already knew this. I learned this on YouTube. But the problem I see with this is like, most of the things on YouTube or online, they're not organized. So if you don't know exactly what you're supposed to be learning, if you don't know the principles that you're supposed to be learning, if you don't have a curriculum or a guide, you're not going to learn anything online, and you won't be able to utilize that free content to the full maximum, to the fullest potential. And I think that learning things online is for free is probably one of the best ways to go. one of the most interesting ways to go because you would learn so much. And when you learn on course, you're basically at the mercy of the course. But what do you think about it? Like, I'm done talking about what I think about it. But what do you think about?
Yeah, I mean, you said it right. It's like if if money's a constraint, then use all the free information that you possibly can. And it's definitely an added challenge to do that because you do have to contextualize it and try to put it all together on your own, as opposed to having someone that will work with you and walk through the material with you and make sure that everything makes sense and the things that you get in that school setting and having a
Yep.
teacher. So I mean, I believe in teaching and I believe in mentorship and I believe in the value of formalized education. I've always been a proponent of like, let's not bash art schools and let's not act like online courses are, the destruction of art schools and we don't need art schools. Because I think it's so interesting you say there's a mediocrity amongst, people you see working there. It's like, well, art schools can build a foundation, a really deep well of knowledge and foundation for people to work from. And so, you can't discount that and think that, oh, just because I can watch a tutorial on how to use After Effects or make something cool, that's a replacement. I mean, that's also a good thing. And there's something to be said for just get skills, right? Like skills pay in our world. And, we're in an unprecedented time where the talent of digital artists, the labor pool is now global, and COVID has just sped it up dramatically where companies now realize like, hey, let's just hire the best people wherever they live. So me living here in Virginia and you living there,
Nigeria.
we can both present ourselves to companies and studios and agencies as artists and show our portfolios, and you tell them your rate and I tell them my rate, and it's like, that's the world. So you really just focus on creating and try to drown out the noise, and don't spend too much time just on Twitter looking at other people's work, and don't spend too much time trying to chase strategies or read self-help stuff when it's more like just make a lot of work, just be prolific. That's really the best advice typically for artists, is just to be as prolific as possible and make a lot of work and absorb everything you can, and I'm sure it can be done, without ever paying for a course. Certainly,
I think the difference between art school and someone who is learning online, minus the online courses, because online courses don't even teach you a fraction of what art school teaches you. The difference between art school and online courses is the fact that art school, like, there's a guide. They have a structure. There is a guide, there's a curriculum, and online you're on your own basically. Even if you have a course, you're still on your own.
right, and a whole institutional ethos, like a whole way of thinking inside of art schools. They're like, is good and bad. It's not just like putting your stuff
Yep.
online and everyone being like, cool, super great. There's like artists that you respect ripping your work to shreds inside of an art school. Like, there's actually a perspective. There's not just like everything's great, all creating is equal. But so it's like art school really shapes people
Yep.
and can certainly make them kind of cynical snobs from time to time. But I enjoy this sort of crowd, actually.
I
But right, that's the thing you miss when it's just like, oh, I just watched a tutorial and then I post it and then I got 300 likes or whatever. Like, that's very different, way. That's why I say if you are learning online and it's still so like try to go work for a studio, try to go get in those environments that can simulate what it's like to have that iron sharpens iron kind of situation.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. James is saying that mentality is that mentality is what I wish more people share. It's not an online versus brick and mortar. It's just to existing and not eating on each other. I think art school is definitely still valuable. I think people should go for it. It's just crazy expensive. Yeah.
No doubt, no doubt. But it's like, right, it depends. Like in the United States, is it crazy expensive? It really, really is. I know there's great art schools in the UK that are like 10 or 12 grand a year, and that's like remarkable versus like 650, 40, 50, 60 in the United States. But we've got a real issue specific to the United States with how college is paid for. and this like huge inflating low interest rate. They'll just let 18-year-olds borrow huge sums of money, even if they can't pay it back, because a lot of it's like collateralized out by the government anyway. So it's this weird kind of situation, and it's a bit of a trap because if you do borrow all that money, it's
Don't come
like
back from it unless you become a billionaire magically.
so hard, so hard.
Sarah says art school
But
teaches you to take critique.
right, and the boldness to give critique. It's very hard online to get anyone to tell you that your work looks like trash, but in art school, this is commonplace from what I
Yo,
understand.
yeah, I think School of Motion and you guys obviously you're like a good balance between art and online, like the old structure and the new structure. You guys still bring back that having someone to talk to.
I think people are experimenting. I think people are trying to learn, how does this
Yeah,
work? What does the best version of this look like? What's really useful for people? Who are we really serving at any given time? I mean, it's cool. It's so cool to get to be a part of this, and the world has changed so much.
yeah. I think in the next few years, I think the amount of people going to school is going to decline. And the amount of people going
Yeah.
to art schools are going to decline even more, and more people are going to go for classes like the School of Motion class or Mograph Mentors class. And like for me, one of the classes that really,
Perhaps so. I think the reality on the ground is like the waiting list at Ringling pretty strong. Like I think there's still a rush into, as crazy as it sounds, because there are people who have the money.
or
To
they're just using the
do it.
student loan. But what I'm saying is that because of that fact that people like, there's going to be a balance in education in the sense that you're not going to feel like a bad person in society for not going to school. Before, back in the day,
Sure.
you're going to feel you're like a bum. I think that's what Americans call it. You're like a bum. Like they'll tell you like you're going to be homeless since you didn't go to school, or you're going to get a crappy job.
Yeah, expectations totally change.
Yeah, and right now people, it's not like that anymore. Like I think they've desensitized all that. People, you can literally like just work from home. You can literally just learn from home and still be one of the most amazing person or one of the richest person. Just be in a good place financially. I think because of that fact, I think that's why I think you should put in more effort to innovate it in that space of like finding a way to make online learning better, because it's the future. I don't see anyone going back to classes. There might still be art schools, but I don't see every school. I think there would be that option that, okay, I want to go to school from home, pay your school fees, but
That's certainly the moment. Certainly the moment for online learning. Absolutely, and right. I think that's the question. How do you make it better and impactful, and something that can really help people, but keep the standards and help people really.
And remove all the stereotypes, because school have a bunch of stereotypes. Like when I was in school, like secondary school, because I'm still in university, all they keep saying to me, like all they keep saying to all the kids, all the songs, all the rhymes, all the stories they told is all centered around the fact that if you don't finish school, you're not going to make it in life and you're going to be very useless. So you get a storybook and there are two characters. There's one that is going to school, is reading his book, and there's the other one that doesn't read his book and he ends up as a mechanic or like as an artisan, so a crappy job.
This is bad that he's a mechanic.
Yeah, like is it that bad? Like you can literally become a billionaire from being a mechanic. You could, if you find your way to, like, if you are smart enough and you're able to create a good business model out of it, you can make billions from being a mechanic if you target the right people, if you understand business very well. I don't know what is so bad about being.
I don't know how a mechanic would make billions.
I do.
Maybe.
I can figure it out. Like there's no. It's just the billions. I wish I had made a billions before saying that, but it's just the billions. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Well, I think it'll be a mix. I think it's going to be both. Certainly, people will to universities, and that is super expensive private art schools, but it's also state schools, and it's also community colleges and art programs and alternative art training centers. And I don't know, maybe I'm over indexing or over correcting for wanting to be in a physical space with other people, but
I
I
think you
still feel
always
like
like being in physical
it's a
space.
bit dehumanizing. It's a bit dehumanizing and soul sucking and exhausting to just always be, at the computer. It takes a heavy toll all the time you spend at your machine. I feel like environment is you just can't replace it. So it's like I'm long, people wanting to be in spaces together and
Yep.
I still think the most, substantive forms of improving as an artist is going to come from being in physical spaces with other people making art too, usually under a deadline, at a studio or your collaborators or this kind of environment.
I think in the next few years there'll be a balance in terms of people would have like what I think a post-COVID world would look like is there would be a balance. You would have that option to choose whether you want to be like me and
Mm.
stay in this room and not leave it. I personally love this room. I want to paint it white.
Yeah,
Like you would have that option of being able to say that I want to stay in this room for a long time, or you have the option to like like have a physical class. And
sure.
James is
Kind of a
saying that it's
hybrid,
called a
hybrid model. Yeah.
creative osmosis. What you're saying?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And maybe you're right. Maybe this whole situation is going to allow people to strike a new balance where we don't work as many hours in a studio, or there's a rebalancing that could be healthy. But right, there's just an inescapable value to being in a creative environment.
Yep. And I can't wait for I don't know. I can't wait for like the post-COVID world. I can't wait for
Yes.
how it's going to be like. It's going to be really
Uh,
interesting. But one thing I hate is the fact that my my country would not they wouldn't conform to the new COVID rules. Like they would just keep things the way they are just because of what they can do with it. Because like they would be like well, the best way to describe it is Blockbuster and Netflix
mm,
or Kodak and digital cameras. So it's like digital
mm,
versus film. Digital definitely has taken over film, like by a lot. Like film can't even do the same quality digital does. But back in the days,
yeah,
those companies didn't see it. I feel like that is my country right now. They don't see the future of how things are going to be. So you would still see a lot of people who had the same old mentality, and those people would be the one in power, and they would be the one enforcing that old
yeah,
mentality and not really embracing innovation.
yeah. That's the role of generational
Yeah.
change. I mean, it's just going to have to be slow and long and a work of a lifetime.
Sarah
I mean, it sounds like infrastructure is the current bottleneck. I mean, that sounds like the biggest problem.
yeah,
You
I
know,
wish I can just like sit down, invest my own money into fixing our own infrastructure, but I don't have the money.
sure,
But like I would
sure.
do that if I do have the money. Like most people in my country, like you know how every country has their own dream, and the American dream is like living a good life and making
Mm,
enough money and being rich and all. The Nigerian dream is living in Nigeria. The Nigerian dream is not to stay. Like every single person in Nigeria does not want to stay in Nigeria, especially the youth.
really?
Yep,
What do they want to
they
do?
want
What do
to.
they want
They
to
want
do?
to leave the country, go anywhere other than this country.
Mm,
Go to
different place.
Ghana, go
Mm,
to I wouldn't say Ghana, but go to the United States. The United States is like the biggest place everyone wants to go to. Or go to the UK, but I wouldn't recommend you going to the UK. The cost of living is crazy high.
yes, it is.
And
Yes, it
but the
is.
United States is like okay, fairly okay. Or go to Canada. Canada is like the biggest one for us. Like everyone wants to go to
That's
Canada.
tough. That's tough. I mean, maybe you could start some kind of political movement to have the government invest in internet infrastructure.
I wish I'm that kind of person that would want to start political movement, but in this country, I don't want to say anything that will get me killed.
You just got to keep your
I'm
head
not gonna
down.
keep
No,
my head
no,
down.
sorry to hear
Like, you don't want to try something, and the next thing you just found your body on the road or something.
that. Like, hey, and I'm sure, I would hope the government already knows this and is already planning, or or
Yep.
the Chinese are going to come in and build and lease out the infrastructure. I know that's happening to a degree with like transportation, but I mean, over here they're talking 5G, 5G, 5G. Now we're
No, we are still trying to get a
remaking.
balance in the 4G network. Like I was just telling, because I spent a few
Yeah,
weeks ago, I was studying the internet intensely. Like I was studying how the internet works in my country, Like I was studying it
Mm.
intensely. I think I've told a couple of my friends that I was doing that weird study, but like I was studying it intensely. And the way our internet works, the way the infrastructure works, is so bad that I don't think we would have good internet for a while. I don't think we would have that 5G infrastructure coming in yet. Like I don't think we would have good internet yet because the infrastructure is so expensive, and you have the major players fighting for the infrastructure that is already on ground. So like, how do you get good internet in that kind of situation?
Right.
It's
No clue. That's,
like
that's an
it's
impossible
crazy.
situation, right? I mean, yeah, I mean, we're talking civilizational society level
Yeah,
stuff here. It's tough. You got to do what you can with what you have.
I
But
can't wait to see how Starlink is going to be like. But I'm a bit skeptical. I don't think it's going to change anything just yet. I think it's going to take
mm,
time before it gets to that stage that people think it's going to get to. I think it can't replace fiber connection just yet. It takes work to replace fiber connection. But I'm
right,
looking
for
forward to
sure.
see.
Right. It's a heavy lift, no doubt about it. No
But
doubt
I'm
about
looking
it.
forward to seeing how it goes. How it goes. I think
So,
we're
what is your aspiration? Do you want to start a studio or an agency?
I already have a studio or a team. I would like to call us a team and really not a studio. We're like a team of 7 and we handle motion for
Oh,
brands. We're really
mm,
small. We are not making much right now, but we're growing. And we don't
yeah,
really have much client. Maybe get project maybe once in 2 months. Because we have like this rule where we work on one project for 2 months so we can give the best quality. So if you're not ready to give us a project and allow us to do it for 2 months, please keep your money because I don't want someone giving me a project, telling me to do it in a month, and then we are not all not happy because I don't. You can't manage a project well enough in a month. You can't give them the best of the best in a
sure,
month,
sure. Okay,
and you compare like you compare the results that I get with the result of a studio like Man versus Machine or Tendril, and those guys had months and months to work on that thing, and they are not just one person. They are not just like a team of 7. They're like a team of 20 or 30 people working on a project, and they all
sure.
have different specialization. I'm just a team of people who know a lot, but we're still trying to get things done, and we need time to do that. Basically, so I'm just explaining some of the struggles I have with running
Sure.
it.
No, I mean, but that's the way to do it, right? That's the way to build is to take your time. And it sounds like you have a great approach about, ensuring quality and happy clients. And
Yep.
that's really all you can do. I mean, it sounds like you're on that path. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think we're like, thank you very much for coming. I think like we're closer and closer to the end of the stream.
Yeah, yeah.
It's definitely been really fun talking to you and doing this stream with you. I am a bit like sad about the turn up because I was expecting like 50
Hey,
people
that's
coming.
okay, man. People are busy. People got stuff going on. It's a work day. So I'm
Yeah,
sure people are
yeah, like
working.
I actually don't mind. I'm grateful for the amount of people. I'm grateful that some of my friends who are friends of the stream, I think they have
Yeah,
been
yeah. Thanks for
coming,
stopping in.
and I'm grateful that they came and they are here. And I'm having another stream on Sunday and also next week. I'm having a stream on Sunday with Byron Slaper. He did a lot of he does a lot of title sequences, and he has worked on a couple of title sequences for movies. Like he was part of Iron Man 2, Spider Man 2, Pacific Rim. I'm so excited to talk to this guy. And we're just going to have a pop-up stream on
Awesome.
Sunday. And next week I'm having Caitlin Kaju come on the channel. And the week after I'm having James Fried Pixel, the amazing guy, come on the channel. So it's like a
Nice.
full month. And
Yeah, you're a busy guy.
yeah,
That's good.
so like let me just end the stream. Thank you guys for coming. Enjoy the rest of your work day. I'm going to go back to shooting after my call with Mike.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Sarah, James, Jonathan, thanks for coming by. Yeah, thank you so much, man. It's great to meet you and talk to you and webs.
Yes, I'm sorry, I accidentally pressed the transition script. Yeah, well, I'm definitely going to keep connecting with you and I'm definitely going to keep talking to you. Sorry, the stream is about to end now. I'm going to press the button and the stream ends. Goodbye, guys. Okay.